Good evening and welcome to the news. The NTA News Top Table is full of new materials on developing stories with key interviews to give proper perspectives to issues on the front burner. In the next hour and a half, we'll be in different locations across the country with our lenses on the Nigerian and the daily demands of life. Tonight, goodbye and welcome. Cabinet reshuffle brings in 7 new faces, while 5 bow out. On power, Senate and the House of Representatives to investigate recent power outages and grid collapse in the country.
This sad development is coming at a time when the Honorable Minister of Power has given assurances to the nation of a stable power sector during the increase in power tariff.
Trade and industry. Federal government moves to aid ailing industries in Kano. And in the conflict between man and nature, communities in Ogun and Rivers states count losses after devastating floods. We'll have updates from business with Benny Adams, while Badi Adeleye will be giving us the latest from the world of sports. As we say on this shift, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I'm Ian Ray John, and this is News Extra. Welcome. Let's set sail now as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the immediate implementation of 8 far-reaching actions to reinvigorate the administration's capacity for optimal efficiency, pursuant of his commitment to deliver on his promises to Nigerians. The 8 actions approved by the President are compiled by Elizabeth Omori.
The 8 actions include renaming of the Ministry of Niger Delta Development to the Ministry of Regional Development, which will now oversee multiple regional development commissions, including the Niger Delta, Southeast, Northeast and Northwest Development Commissions. Winding up of the Ministry of Sports Development, with its responsibilities being transferred to the National Sports Commission to foster a stronger sports economy. Merger of the Ministry of Tourism and Ministry of Arts and Culture into the Ministry of Art, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy. Other actions are reassignment of 10 ministers to new ministerial portfolios, discharge of 5 ministers, nomination of 7 new ministers for onward transmission to Senate for confirmation, appointment of Shehu Diko as chairman of the National Sports Commission, and appointment of Sunday Dari as Special Advisor to the President on Public Communication and Orientation. Reassignment of 10 ministers to new portfolios. They are Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction; Morufu Olatunji Alausa, Minister of Education; Bello Mohammed Goronyo, Minister of State for Works; Abubakar Eshokweha Momo, Minister of Regional Development; Uba Meigari Hamadu, Minister of State for Regional Development; Doris Uzoka Anite, Minister of State for Finance; Senator John Owa Eno, Minister of State for Trade and Investment, Industry; Iman Sulaiman Ibrahim, Minister of Women Affairs; Ayodele Olawande, Minister for Youth Development; and Dr. Salako Isiaq Adekunle Adeboye, Minister of State for Health. Ministers to be discharged are Barrister Uju Kennedy Ohaninye, Lola Adejon, Professor Tahir Maman, Abdullahi Mohammed Gwarzo, and Jamila Bio Ibrahim. New ministers appointed with their portfolios are Dr. Nentawi Yilwada, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction; Mohammed Meigari Dingyadi, Minister of Labour and Employment; Bianca Odinaka Odumegu Ojoko, Minister of State Foreign Affairs; Jumoke Oduwole, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment; Idi Mukhtar Meha for Federal Ministry of Livestock Development; Yusuf Abdullahi Atta, Minister of State Housing and Urban Development; and Shweba Said Ahmed, Minister of State, Education. The President urges both the newly appointed and reassigned ministers to view their roles as call to service, emphasizing the administration's commitment to setting Nigeria on a path to sustainable growth. Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
We have more news on the British government, but that will be much later in the bulletin. Now, President Bola Tinubu has sworn in Abdullahi Usman Bello as the new chairman of the National Code of Conduct Bureau. The short ceremony was at the commencement of the Federal Executive Council meeting this Wednesday. The 50-year-old Abdullahi Bello from Gombe State is a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, UK, and a Certified Fraud Examiner in the US. He is a PhD holder in anti-money laundering compliance from the Northumbria University, United Kingdom. Dr. Bello, who has performed roles related to anti-corruption, anti-money laundering, financial intelligence analysis, forensic accounting, financial investigation, accounting and finance, promises to bring his experience to bear as he leads the Code of Conduct Bureau.
I'll do my best to make sure that I deal with this huge task that is ahead of me. Like you mentioned, Code of Conduct Bureau is the foremost anti-corruption agency, the first anti-corruption agency in Nigeria, and I intend to deliver on the mandates of the Bureau. It's all about making sure that people, public servants, they behave with integrity, they avoid corruption, no conflict of interest. So that is the aim of it. Integrity, accountability, that is what the duties that I need to deliver. And I promise Nigerians that, inshallah, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I deliver on the mandate of the Bureau.
Inauguration followed nomination by the President and endorsement by the National Assembly. We'll head to the National Assembly now, where the Senate is of the view that tackling the problem of out-of-school children in Nigeria requires the convergence of stakeholders to come up with comprehensive solutions. It therefore adopted a resolution that a national summit on out-of-school children be convened for participation by the federal and sub-nationals. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali brings us details on this and other legislative considerations at Senate.
There has not been synergy or roadmap with the state government on out-of-school children.
We have billions of naira lying fallow at the universal basic education, with the state unable to come up with their own counterpart funding.
Why should we even be taking money from World Bank to fund our primary education in this country?
The issue of lack of coordination between the national and sub-national levels is very critical.
Some people will say it is from federal, some people will say from the state. Coming as a former governor, I think it is from the states.
The legislators, while considering the report of the Senate Committee on Basic and Secondary Education following an investigation it conducted on the challenge of out-of-school children in Nigeria, were unanimous that collective effort was needed to tackle the situation.
We need a total turnaround for our educational philosophy in this country.
Different levels of stakeholders need to come together to fashion out a lasting solution to this.
When you go to the lowest level, the parents, there must be reorientation.
This is clearly the future of Nigeria. And I pray that through the National Summit, the resolutions will be implemented, issues will be well highlighted, and then all efforts will be made to bring this menace to an end so that our children can have a better future and not an adulthood in banditry, an adulthood in Boko Haram, an adulthood in fraud. I thank you all.
Senate has passed the bill to establish a National Eye Center in Doma, Nasarawa State, and passed at second reading bill to establish Federal University of Education Technical in Gombe State.
With emphasis on planning, developmental and adaptive skills in education, engineering, technology, applied sciences, agriculture, commerce, arts, social science, humanities, management, and applied professional disciplines.
5 bills passed first reading, among them Bill to establish Public Infrastructure Maintenance Bill. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
We still have more reports on out-of-school children, but let's see other news now, as the Senate is to carry out a thorough investigation into the frequent incidents of power outages in parts of the country, with a view to finding solutions to challenges of the sector. This was when Senate Committee on Power engaged the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, in continuation of its oversight to strengthen agencies in the power sector for efficient service delivery. Correspondent Joshua Ojito reports that the committee expresses concern over recent grid disturbances and says it will engage all relevant stakeholders to find out immediate and remote causes of the outages. The Senate Committee on Power notes that the federal government a huge investment in the sector, and there is need for sector players to step up their game and deliver reliable electricity to Nigerians.
Our feelings and our views on the matter of power outages in the country. Meanwhile, it's kudos to them. The little they're doing it well.
Look forward to more meetings like this, because it will go a long way in giving us the guidelines to be able to fulfill our mandates smoothly. And you know, the NEMSA mandate has to do with enforcement of technical standards, technical regulation, testing and certification of all categories of electrical installations across the power value chain.
Meanwhile, Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu has set up a 6-man forensic committee to advise government on necessary solutions to ensure grid stability. The committee is expected to submit its report by November 1, 2024. Still in the National Assembly, but looking at the green side now, power supply is crucial to economic growth and development. Little wonder the House of Representatives, out of concern, directed its Committee on Power to investigate the frequent collapse of the national grid and provide a report within 3 weeks for legislative action. National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ikme reports on this and other resolutions of Wednesday's plenary in the House of Representatives.
Adopting a motion of urgent public importance, the House expressed worry over persistent failure of the national power grid, resulting to blackout in parts of the country.
This sad development is coming at a time when the Honorable Minister of Power has given assurances to the nation of a stable power sector during the increase in power tariff.
This motion is referred to the Committee on Power for further legislative action.
Bill seeking an increase of revenue allocation percentage for states from federation account based on derivative principle, as well as bill to establish the Nigerian National Honors and Merit Award Commission, scaled second reading.
It will discourage states from overdependence on the federal allocation that comes to their states. A lot of natural resources in the north, in the south, same. There are a lot of natural resources. And Mr. Speaker, these resources have not been fully tapped for the benefit of the federal government and the state. When this law is passed, Mr. Speaker, it will encourage states to go into the full development of these natural resources to the benefit of the state.
We hope and pray that there will be more competence in choosing people deserving Nigerians to be given national awards.
A bill for an act to provide for establishment of Federal University of Health Science in DAS.
Lawmakers in a motion frowned at the slow pace of construction of the Numan-Jalingo Road and asked Federal Ministry of Works to provide explanation.
The federal government had allocated 3 billion naira to continue the project, attributing the delay to COVID-19, but progress remains slow for over 30 months.
The House adopted a report of its Committee on Health Institutions and a bill for an act to establish Federal Medical Center, Fage, Kano State, to enable easy access to healthcare services. From the National Assembly, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
This is News Extra. Let's pause here. More news in a bit. Thank you for staying with us. In a major review of his administration's structures, President Bola Tinubu has relieved 5 ministers of their appointment, with 7 new ones nominated. This is in addition to some decisions taken at the Federal Executive Council meeting, which include realignment of some federal ministries. State House correspondent Musbal Danwahab has all the details.
President Bola Tinubu returned to chair the Federal Executive Council meeting after his vacation abroad. With memos accumulated, it was expected to be a long session, but then it ended to be one of the briefest FEC meetings so far. However, the outcomes of the meeting are not as short as the duration, with 2 separate briefing sessions afterwards. First, the ministerial briefing chaired by the Information and National Orientation Minister Mohammed Idris revealed the review of the ministries. While the hitherto Ministry of Sport Development has been scrapped for its responsibility to be taken by the National Sports Commission, the Ministry of Tourism is now subsumed under the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy. The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs now has a wider scope to cover other regional commissions and renamed Ministry of Regional Development.
Today, Mr. President and the FEC decided that all these commissions that have been created and signed by the National Assembly will be brought under the supervision of the SY Ministry of Niger Delta, which is now redesignated as the Ministry of Regional Development. For our people over there in the Niger Delta region, I would like them to know that that has not removed anything from them. The NDDC is still very much in place, which is still under the Ministry of Regional Development, and all other such agencies are there. It's just a question of change of nomenclature.
So it's an expansion. What the Federal Executive Council has seen is the need to bring this development closer to this, to the people, closer to their regions. And so there's now an integration of the function of all these commissions under the supervision of the new Ministry of Regional Development.
Other decisions directly from the presidency were announced by the presidential media team. These include the discharge of 5 ministers, reassignments of 10, and nomination of 7 new ones for onward transmission to the National Assembly. The discharged ministers are Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, Lola Adejon, former Minister of Tourism, Professor Tahir Mamman, former Minister of Education, Abdullahi Mohammed Gwazo, former Minister of State, Housing and Urban Development, and Jamila Bio Ibrahim, former Minister of Youth Development.
The President met them this afternoon to thank them for their services for the nation.
The new nominees are Nentawe Yitwatsda, nominated for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Mohammed Megeri Dingiadi, Labor and Employment, Bianca Odumegu Ojuku, Minister of State Foreign Affairs, Jumoke Oduole, Industry, Trade and Investment. Idi Mukhtar Meha is nominated to pioneer the newly established Ministry of Livestock Development. Yusuf Abdullahi Atta, Minister of State, Housing and Urban Development, and Suwaiba Saeed Ahmed, Minister of State Education.
Honorable Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sunono, Minister of State Education as of now, is now the Minister of State, Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Dr. Morufu Olatunji Alausa, who is currently Minister of State for Health, is now the Minister of Education. Barrister Bello Mohammed Goronyo, who is Minister of State, Water, Resources and Sanitation, is now going to be Minister of State Works.
With these latest decisions, President Bola Tinubu has apparently justified his recent 2-week work and leave away, and now Nigerians will be expecting to see the positive impact of these decisions on his administration's performances in days to come. From the State House, Musbal Wahab, NTA News.
Many thanks, Musbal, for that update. Now away from the State House, as the 15-day ultimatum issued by the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, to the federal government nears expiration. Stakeholders in the polytechnic sector, including officials from the Ministry of Education, ASUP, representatives, the National Board for Technical Education, NBTE, and others convened to discuss pressing issues requiring urgent government intervention. Elizabeth Omori reports that the demands presented by ASUP include review of the suspended scheme of service, payment of outstanding arrears, and disbursement of the Needs Assessment Intervention Fund. These matters are critical for improving the conditions within the polytechnic system. Speaking on behalf of the Ministry of Education, Permanent Secretary Nasir Sani Guazo urges all parties involved to exercise patience while deliberations continue.
We should ask things that are doable, and we promise you we will do things that are negotiable. 2, we should be patient. In the process of negotiation, you could say something that might offend somebody, but please, in the spirit of this negotiation, nobody should take offense. We are all protecting common humanity.
ASUP's president highlights the need for the NBTE to reconsider its role in the admission process for higher national diploma, HND, students, stressing that such responsibilities lie with the academic boards of the polytechnics. Further analysis of these and other key concerns will be provided by the leadership of the NBTE shortly. Now, the Executive Secretary, National Board for Technical Education, NBTE, Professor Idris Bugaje, joins me now in the studio to provide explanations to some of the issues in the story we just reported. Many thanks for joining us, Professor.
Thank you very much.
All right. There was a meeting today.
Yeah.
Why was that meeting called?
Well, the meeting was called basically to dialogue, to reach an agreement with the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics. They had given the 15-day ultimatum, and the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Education and the NBTE, are doing their best to address the issues raised by ASUP. Number one, they had raised the issue of scheme of service, scheme and condition of service, which we have now agreed to set up a committee to look into their grievances. As you are aware, the former head of service, Dr. Amy Esan, gave us a very revolutionary document. I call it revolutionary because for the first time in the history of this country, HND holders in polytechnics are going to be employed as assistant lecturers. In the past, university products were coming to the polytechnics to start as assistant lecturers, which is not fair. So for the first time we had that, and we assumed that this scheme of service would be welcomed by everyone. Unfortunately, the staff unions, rejected many portions of it. So we have now agreed to suspend it. We have agreed also to set up a committee to review the areas, gray areas, so that, finally we can have a document acceptable to all stakeholders.
Talking about the suspended scheme of service, could you, throw more light on that? Let's understand what that's about.
Well, the scheme of service actually, since the last approved scheme of service for polytechnics was in 1989. You could see the time it has taken to produce another one. So we regarded it as a major milestone of the former, head of service. But when it was rejected by the unions, not only ASUP, even the other, stakeholders, including student unions, they raised issue on some portions of the scheme of service. So we are now setting up a committee to review it with all membership from all the stakeholders. Importantly, also, we said we had wanted to wait until the National Polytechnic Commission comes on board, because we, the polytechnic sector, we are not mainstream public service. So our scheme of service ideally should be approved by the Polytechnic Commission. and provision has been made in that act. So we are waiting for that, but the unions don't want us to wait. They said, okay, let's have a committee to review and produce an agreeable document. When the commission comes on board, it can now be tabled for approval. So that's a major plus of today's meeting. And then after that, we have also agreed to look into the admission portal. MBTE brought the admission portal to address challenges. Many academic boards of polytechnics were admitting students who were not qualified. For example, somebody doing ND SLT, going and reading chemical engineering at HND. Those kind of students will not be mobilized. Again, polytechnics were exceeding the quota given to them by MBTE. We wanted to have some level of control on that. But if it is going to create problems, we were intended not to take over the functions of the academic board. We wouldn't do that. What we have agreed now to do is, when the polytechnics finish their admission, they will upload their data to the portal. So the portal will be more of a HND data portal. So that's what we have agreed, which is also positive. And finally, also, we have agreed on all those other issues concerning allowances that have not been paid. MBT is going to write the necessary letters so that these entitlements of polytechnic lecturers can be paid.
As a fallout of your meeting, we understand that ASUP is asking that you do not interfere in the admission process.
Yeah.
What's the MBT's stand on that?
Well, we had no intention of interfering, but we wanted to ensure that the right people are admitted by the academic boards. For example, many polytechnics have 80 slots for every program. They go ahead and admit 120, 150 with the same little resources available on the ground. This is bringing down standards.
All right.
So that's why we had wanted to have some check and balance. Even now, we are going to do that because anybody who carries out admission beyond the approved quota will be sanctioned.
Thank you very much. A fine place to leave the conversation. Many thanks for joining us, Professor Idris Bugaje.
It's a pleasure to have me. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
The Executive Secretary of the National Board for Technical Education there. Let's see other news now. Defense Minister Bello Mohammed Metawale has briefed President Bola Tinubu on successes in combating insecurity in Sokoto State. In a statement, Dr. Bello Mohammed Metawale praises the Nigerian military's dedication and professionalism, thanking President Tinubu for allocating necessary resources. He urges residents of Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina and Kebbi to cooperate with security forces and remain vigilant. President Tinubu commends the minister and troops for their efforts to eradicate insecurity in the Northwest. Now, strengthening internal security through interagency cooperation is gaining momentum in the quest to tame pockets of crimes undermining efforts of conventional security bodies. This is coming as the Joint Task Force on Security holds a high-level brainstorming meeting with state coordinators to find a common front of succeeding against crimes and criminality. Olajide Bello is our guide.
The fight against security challenges is a fight to win, and this is why collaboration is growing strong between lead agencies and other allied forces with a common ground to succeed. And the Joint Security Task Force, under the leadership of Professor Keilani Mohammed, is convening a high-level security meeting with the coordinators to improve its approach of curbing the menace.
Whether you are from Bayelsa State, or from Kogi State or Niger, or you are from different regions of this country, our aims and objectives is that we should be one united to build a virile, strong and a formidable country. Operationally, the FCT command has always engaged the CJTF, the hunters and all other vigilante district outfits in one operation or the other. And they have always excelled and make us proud.
State coordinators say they will sustain partnership with members of the Nigerian Armed Forces and the police to dislodge criminal elements terrorizing different parts of the country. This is one of the recent meetings that is building and spreading tentacles for a more efficient and effective synergy to keep Nigeria safe and promote national cohesion. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
We head to Rivers now. The Judicial Commission of Inquiry set up by Rivers State Government to investigate the arson and aftermath of the October 7 crisis in the state has commenced a tour of the affected local government areas for on-the-spot assessment of impact of the crisis. Osinachi Samuel has details.
The tour of the affected local government areas marks the beginning of the mandate of the Commission of Inquiry set up to investigate the immediate and remote causes of the October 7 crisis in Rivers State. This on-the-spot assessment ahead of their formal sitting is to also get first-hand knowledge of the impact in the affected local government areas. Their first port of call was Kana Local Government Council, from where the members, led by its chairperson, Justice Ibiwenge, proceeded to Eleme and Ikwere local government areas.
Kana local government, we noticed some things were carted away, were stolen, and then a little bit of damage in fact, all over. And then we got to Eleme, that's the worst of all. Eleme local government cannot function the way we saw it. Virtually all the offices were, I think that must be, I don't know if it is bomb or dynamite or whatever, but it is in it. We found it in a very terrible state.
The tour was concluded with a visit to Emoha and Obiakpo local government areas. Chairman Obiakpo local government area, Chijoke Ihonwo, explained his effort in recovering looted property to enable council staff return to work.
That money they have looted some places, the generator was vandalized. In fact, we have spent a lot of millions to have to work on it. You have to call the company. They said at that time the money to buy the agenda, and when they bought it is high.
Submitted our memorandum. So all what entails is detailed there.
As the Judicial Commission continues its inquiry, it is hoped that the outcome will help to foster future occurrence. In Port Harcourt, Osinachi Samuel, NTA News.
Let's move to the Sunshine State now, as the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, urges media professionals to familiarize themselves with the electoral technology that will be used during the November 16 governorship election in Ondo State, in order to ensure accurate coverage. Tony Batire gives details of this and other activities towards the upcoming election.
At a forum organized by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for media executives in Akure, the need for media professionals to stay updated on the Commission's new technological processes was emphasized. INEC highlighted its adoption of technology for a seamless electoral process, covering voter registration, election procedures, and result collation, with contingency plans in place for potential technical failures. INEC confirmed that preparations for the forthcoming election are on track, with staff training underway and non-sensitive materials already delivered to local government offices.
Technology has increasingly been integrated into the electoral process to improve efficiency, accuracy, transparency, and accessibility.
We should not favor the politicians, and we should just uphold everything INEC has put in place to have a itch-free election.
We should try to ensure that we don't allow any report that could cause crisis.
Meanwhile, political parties and their candidates are ramping up their campaigns, touring different parts of the state to engage voters. They are pledging their commitment to delivering the dividends of democracy. In Akure, Tony Batire, NTA News.
Of course, with the elections coming up in Ondo, we have 3 candidates participating in the election. Joining us live from Akure, we have with us now Dr. Abbas Mimiko of Zenith Labour Party. Many thanks for joining us. All right, Dr. Abbas Mimiko, we appreciate you for staying with us. Now let's begin with you. What's your, feeling about the upcoming election? Do you think that you will scale through? All right, Dr. Mimiko, looks like there's a challenge with your connection there. We hope to get back to you once that is rectified. All right, let's see what the court has. The Supreme Court judgment on local government financial autonomy is bringing back the beauty of democracy at the grassroots level in Nigeria, with people making laws that suit their peculiar communities. At the moment, quite a number of local government councils have been elected and inaugurated under a democratic setting, with legislative activities set in motion. John Yaku in this report takes a look at what is required to make quality legislation at the grassroots.
A typical legislative proceeding not from the national or state assemblies, but Zing Local Government Area Legislative Council in Taraba State. A bill to regulate activities of scavengers in the locality has been passed and signed into law by the chairman of the local government area.
Without regulating their activities, it may cause a lot of damages.
Elsewhere, the Abuja Municipal Area Council is currently working on the review of its bylaws.
In a very short moment, we will pass them, and then they will pass and transmit it to the executive chairman for assent.
Many legislative councils in Nigeria have similarly passed or are in the process of passing various legislations in their localities that have direct impact on the lives of their people.
You must ensure that your local laws are homegrown, where you collect feedback from the various wards that you represent as local legislators. But most importantly, ensure that you scrutinize the budget.
Analysts say this is the beauty of democracy at the grassroots, as the 774 local government areas across the country will be able to make legislations to bring about the needed development.
Nigerians should actually be interested in the local government election and local government affairs, because that's where we're supposed to be breeding, that's where we're supposed to be, grooming leaders.
Quality legislation is said to be a product of quality legislators or councillors. This brings to the fore the question on how councillors could be well equipped to carry out quality legislation. The National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies is charged with the responsibility of building the capacity of legislators at all levels of government. What is the role of the institution in building legislative capacities at the council levels?
In the areas of lawmaking, we need to brush up their skill. We need to own their skill. We need to train them. We need to build their knowledge for them to know the task ahead of them.
The practice of local government council legislation may have eluded the country for decades, but its return through the Supreme Court judgment will forever re-echo in the history of local government administration in Nigeria. In Abuja, John Yaku, NTA News.
Queen's Way Company is taking the lead in the business of aluminium and making Nigeria proud, producing Nigeria's largest vertically integrated aluminium roofing sheets. Haruna Mohammed reports that the company has subsidiaries across the country.
Looking for hybridization and exploring rural-urban development where the use of aluminium offers superior key features like non-toxicity, high temperature resistance, lightweight, durability, and affordability is Queen's Way Aluminium. With a manufacturing headquarters in Ota, Ogun State, Nigeria, and a subsidiary in Kaduna, the company is also giving its trust to all customers through affordability and quality. Raumik Patel is the managing director of the company. He says the company is into all kinds of architectural aluminium and roofing in ranges of colors and thickness for all designs and applications.
We have 7 types of the roofings. First, seam, which one is called span 150, 200. Second, step tiles, matte copo. Then after crimp, which one is curved. Then after we are in span, we have our product, it's called PU insulated, where we are doing our insulation sheets, which is called double lap and single lap. 2 types of insulation we are doing.
We have been producing and manufacturing everything in-house. Every product is domiciled in Nigeria.
With company like Queen's Way Aluminium producing roof sheets and other utensils fully made in Nigeria with the right quality and the right thickness. Indeed, it is Nigeria to the world.
In Kaduna, I am Haruna Mohammed, NTA News.
All right, the candidates in the Ondo governorship election are with us now. We have Akim Olure John Otituloju of the Young Progressives Party and Dr. Abbas Mimiko of Zenith Labour Party joining us now. Many thanks, gentlemen, for joining us. All right, let me just begin with John Otituloju, the candidate of the Young Progressives Party. What's your reading of the election, coming up next month, 16th exactly, and what are your hopes of winning the election? All right. John Otituloju, looks like you cannot hear me. Dr. Mimiko, can you hear me? If you can, kindly respond. All right, unfortunately, that connection isn't as crisp as we wanted. So let's see what's happening. Industries in Kano will soon bounce back to commence production as the federal government rolled out a strategy to inject a new lease of life through an alternative method known as clean energy. The dual intentions is a paradigm shift from mono to a private sector-driven economy and also a revival of job opportunities. Yohanasu Hassan Barao reports that this intervention will relaunch Kano among global industrial hubs.
Back in the 70s and 80s, the factories behind me were the driving force of Kano's economy, employing thousands of Nigerians and contributing significantly to a private sector-driven economy. But today, as I stand here, these factories are a shadow of their former selves, with none currently in production. Apart from being a business hub, Kano is blessed with factories that were into manufacturing of foods, textiles, tanneries, and automobiles. These factories are now not in their full capacity production, which affects the private sector-driven economy and reduces volumes of turnovers. However, hope is not lost, as these industries will soon bounce back to life, reminiscences to the early 70s and 80s, as the federal government is determined to deploy the necessary technologies to revive them. This is anchored on a series of incentives in tax administration, improved infrastructure, easy access to financing aimed at revamping the island industries, in addition to promoting the adoption of clean and environmentally friendly energy.
Revive the power sector, reduce the dependency of power sector from the national grid, create opportunity for small-scale industries.
We are running 31 megawatt of electricity through clean energy. The other issue is this. We would like through her office to have more participation, more cooperation with the private, public, and the government to enable us move forward.
To actualize this policy, the federal government dispatched a high-powered delegation to obtain first-hand information on how to achieve these set goals. This includes visitation to functional industries across the country, Kano inclusive.
We're actually launching a dialogue series, what we call the Nigerian Industrial Revitalization Dialogue Series. So we'll take industries, for example, and then take each of the problems that they have one by one. In the first series, we're looking at how to solve the power problem.
The steps taken by President Tinubu's administration will no doubt assist private sectors in Kano reclaim its position in the league of leading economies, not only in the country, but in sub-Saharan Africa. In Kano, Yohanasu Hassan Barao, NTA News.
Away from the Center of Commerce now, let's head to the courtroom, where a federal high court in Abuja has ordered the release of Tigran Gabayan, the detained Binance Holdings Limited's executive from Kuje Correctional Center. Justice Emeka Nwite gave the order after the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC's counsel, Adagba, informed the court of the decision of the federal government to withdraw the charge against Gabayan. Adagba, who held the brief of Ekele Iheanacho, SEN, promised the decision on Gabayan's deteriorating health and the diplomatic intervention. The FCC had on April 8 arraigned Binance Holdings Limited and Gabayan before Justice Emeka Nwite of a federal high court sitting in Abuja. They were arraigned on a 5-count charge bordering on alleged tax evasion, currency speculation and money laundering to the tune of more than $34,400,000. He stated further that the government had reviewed the case and had taken cognizance that Gabayan, a U.S. citizen, was a mere employer of Binance Holdings Limited, whose status in the matter has no impact. The matter is adjourned until November 22 and November 25 for continuation of trial. In other news, in continuation of the Afrido Descendants Homecoming, a date to Global Economic Africa Investment Summit has commenced in Abuja to proudly showcase African products, goods and services. The summit, which had as its theme operating in integrity, was an opportunity for matchmaking between the Afrido investors and their Nigeria business counterparts, with the expectation that substantial deals will be discussed.
What we are doing here today is showcasing what they can do, interfacing with other black chambers of commerce in Nigeria and other businesses, investors.
Areas of interest they have indicated is oil and gas, midstream, downstream, OPL, OML. They are very much interested to invest in the oil and gas sector, and they have a credit line of $2.5 billion US.
Most important thing we have to build is trust and relationship. That's the greatest currency we have, is trust and relationship. Once we accomplish that, the investment won't just come from us to you, it'll come from you to us.
We need to focus on agriculture to provide raw materials for our industrialization. So there is a lot that this summit can do for our country, particularly if the focus is on agriculture.
With the showcase of proudly African products, the African diasporans took a tour of various stands to appreciate homemade goods. Let's take a break now. Please remain tuned. Glad to have you back. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to ensuring equality education for the Almajiri and out-of-school children across the country. The Executive Secretary at National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Children's Education, Dr. Muhammad Sani Idris, stated this when he paid an advocacy visit to members of Christian Association of Nigeria and the Muslim community in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Ayomiku Ajibola has the details.
This visit, led by the Executive Secretary, National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Children's Education, to the leaders of the two religious bodies, is part of the Commission's continuous advocacy in the southern part of the country in a bid to eradicate the out-of-school syndrome. The partnership with CAN and Muslim community, according to the Executive Secretary, is crucial to the success of the project, as it will enable the Commission to engage with both bodies for a better understanding of its mandate.
We are going to build at least 10,000 schools in Nigeria before the end of this administration. And it is our prayer that taking advantage of the facilities around and the passion Mr. President is having before the end of this tenure, the first tenure of Mr. President, a handsome number of out-of-school children will go back to school. We are targeting 10 million.
The religious leaders pledge to collaborate with the Commission, calling for fairness and equity to ensure that no segment of the region is left out of the advocacy.
This acts of fellowship that are extended to us is well appreciated. This particular one, like you mentioned, is going to be an agent of unification.
The delegation later paid an unscheduled visit to Olore Arabic and Islamic Reformation Center, where he met with some Almajiris who were already out of the street and currently being educated. In Ibadan, Ayomiku Ajibola, NTA News.
Meanwhile, for generations, Nigerian parents have cherished the tradition of passing down school materials from one child to the next. It was a practical solution, saving families money while also promoting sustainability. But today, this cherished practice is under threat. Zenret Digmun will tell us about it.
Schools across the country are increasingly insisting that students purchase brand new books each academic year, leaving many parents questioning the reasons behind the skyrocketing costs and whether it's a case of corruption or global standard upgrade. Parents argue that reusing school books cuts expenses, reduces waste, and fosters resourcefulness.
We plead that if some proprietor will understand with us, we can actually make sure that they use the book with some caution so that the one behind them can actually make use of it also.
Educators and key players in the sector defend the shift. They cite the need to update curricula, integrate digital learning resources, and emphasize a more personalized learning approach for students.
We have 46 million kids in our basic education. And to provide textbooks for 46 million, it requires not only the federal government intervening, but also the states on whose behalf the federal government is intervening to also make sure that they can put in serious resources.
For education stakeholders, the narrative isn't just about rising costs. They argue it's about keeping up with global standards and ensuring students have access to the most up-to-date learning materials and digital resources.
So we cannot say because they finish from SS1, they have junior, going in JS3 coming to SS1 we pass book. That is just the policy. You have to buy. But I think it's a welcome idea if we can get it whereby, because the parents will be happy not to buy at least same books that they have for.
Our hope is that as we are moving more towards the digital, isn't it? Taking the digital path, it will come to a point where the issue of textbooks, isn't it? Hard copy textbooks will just be a story of the past.
In response, the Federal Ministry of Education has begun taking steps to address these concerns. They are committed to making textbooks more affordable while promoting sustainability in education. The ministry is also exploring policies that could strike a balance between modernization and accessibility for all Nigerian students.
A lot of economic issues involved in it, and that what we needed now is what will bring at least some subsidy or what one can put some ease for parents to pursue education. So this is something that definitely we'll also look at it. We'll put in a committee that will look at that, why did manufacturers or publishers design it in such a way, and does it really tally with our own ideas?
The government's broader goal is to transform the Nigerian education sector, creating an environment where learning is both enriching and financially accessible for every family. In Abuja, Zenret Digmun, NTA News.
Away from education now, let's talk business. The businessman's here. Benny, feed us.
Now talking business, Senate Committee on Trade and Investment say it is committed to ensuring money is allocated for projects and programs in the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment impacts on the nation's economy and commit to supporting the management of the ministry to succeed. This was as the committee came visiting to ascertain the level of performance of allocations from 2023 and 2024 budgets with a view to ensuring successful implementation.
This committee will ensure that the ministry receives its pride of place and will be encouraged through proper legislative intervention as at whenever required, so that you can deliver on the mandate of meeting the expectations and yearning of Nigeria.
Now, the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, says a key to achieving enhanced energy security, efficiency, and sustainability for Nigeria is the latest survey on Nigeria residential energy demand, which serves as a roadmap for policymakers and stakeholders. At the unveiling of the survey, the Statistician General of the Federation, Adeyemi Adeniran, says the 2024 survey provides critical insights on household energy consumption, access, and affordability across 9 pilot states. Key findings reveal that 41% of households purchase fuel wood, 22% use charcoal, and 19.4% rely on LPG, with an average monthly expenditure of 10,239 naira. The report highlights the need for better energy distribution, promotion of efficiency, expansion of renewables, and targeted interventions to address energy poverty.
Into the energy sector by the federal government by transforming the insights contained in this report into actionable policies and programs that will positively impact the lives of all Nigerians.
Now to the stock market. The bulls maintained a dominance on the Nigerian equities market at the close of Wednesday's trading, extending previous 3 sessions gains with sustained buying interest in some stocks as investors gained 31.14 billion naira. You can see the equity capitalization appreciated to 59.9 trillion naira, where we see the all share index appreciating to 98,944.42 basis point, to see the total appreciation at 0.05%. And looking at the top trades, you see Access Holdings. We have Access Holdings on the third spot with 44.9 million. NB, that's the Nigerian Breweries, 37.4 million. And on the first spot is the banking stock, talking about a United Bank for Africa, for 66 million. Well, that is it on business. You can take it from here, Yeri.
Many thanks, Benny, for the updates. Let's get you updated with other stories now. As a 41-year-old Canadian lady, Adrienne Munju, was on Wednesday, 23rd October 2024, convicted and sentenced to 11 years imprisonment by a federal high court in Lagos for importing into Nigeria 74 parcels of Canadian loud, a strong strain of synthetic cannabis weighing 35.20 kilograms. Munju's conviction followed her arraignment on 2 counts charge before Justice Dende Dikbeolu of the Federal High Court, Lagos, by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, which arrested her at Terminal 1 of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos, on Thursday, 3rd October 2024, during the inward clearance of inbound passengers at the airport. We head to Jigawa. More than a week after the tragic tanker explosion in Madia town of Taura local government of Jigawa state, which claimed more than 170 lives, the people of the town seem to continue to grieve and find it difficult to recover from the shock of the tragic incident. The tragedy, which occurred under devastating circumstances, has left a significant mark on the community, altering the daily lives of its residents. In the light of this, correspondent Ibrahim Sani looks at the need to devise ways to prevent future occurrence.
Madia Town, once a hub of vibrant economic activity and youthful exuberance, now stands as a shell of its former self. The community's spirit was shattered by the tragic tanker explosion that claimed the lives of more than 170 residents.
It is so touching for an event like this to happen in this country.
It's better government to reverse back to pumping the product through pipelines.
This tragedy has led many to emphasize the crucial need for adherence to safety protocols and the law in handling combustible materials. The once bustling streets of Madia remain quiet, leaving behind a profound sense of loss. In light of this tragedy, it is imperative to re-examine community practices and instill a culture of caution among residents.
It happens because the people of that area are unaware of the dangers that used to occur or emanate as a result of this instance of premium motor exploration.
Nigerians should imbibe this culture of heeding, listening to our elders, listening to our government at different tiers, I think once we do this, and we should be our brothers' keepers.
Although the present state of Maja reflects despair, hope remains for recovery through community engagements and resilience. Maja residents can harness its youthful spirit and potential. There lies a path towards revitalization and renewed optimism.
Another break is due. We need you, so stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. The Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, Shehu Mohammed, says Africa must prioritize robust road safety measures to protect lives and property. This was at the first Congress of the African Union of Transport and Logistics Organizations in Tangier Kingdom of Morocco. Against the high percentage of fatalities and injuries resulting from road crashes in Africa, Corps Marshal Shehu Mohammed says the United Nations General Assembly passed a regulation for African countries to develop a national road safety development plan. In line with that perspective, Nigeria developed the Nigeria Road Safety Strategy document, a national blueprint to galvanize both government and private sector as critical stakeholders to ensure that road crash-related deaths and injuries are reduced by 5% by the end of the year 2030. Away from road safety matters, let's look at health now. As the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has reported a significant reduction in diphtheria cases during the ongoing outbreak in the country, but emphasizes the need for continued efforts to sustain the progress in containing the disease. This development was disclosed during the National Interaction Review meeting on diphtheria held in Kaduna State. Muhammad Umar Ajingi reports.
These stakeholders gathered here to evaluate the current strategies in combating the outbreak and to identify areas that require further improvement. The key participants, including the Red Cross and representatives from subnational bodies, shared their experiences in managing diphtheria cases.
So far in the last few months, there's been a slight reduction of the cases. However, we're seeing some states such as Katsina, Bauchi reporting high number of cases of diphtheria.
They called for increased public awareness about the vaccination and the importance of active case finding.
We've been able to have stocks of precious medical countermeasures supplies like the diphtheria antitoxin being deployed to states.
And when this diphtheria outbreak started, we supported the government of Nigeria with 3,700 community-based volunteers that are deployed to 14 states. And these community-based volunteers are going for house-to-house sensitization to educate the community.
It is hoped that the discussions and insights from this review meeting will play a crucial role in further mitigating the diphtheria epidemic in Nigeria. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
In other news, the National Values Charter initiative of the federal government is gaining momentum as the National Orientation Agency intensifies campaign on the rebranding Nigeria project. Kenneth Nanim reports that the agency is taking stock of achievements in the last 1 year.
The Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Malam Lanre Isaonilu, usually comes to the office quietly and goes home quietly. But the management and staff of the agency decided to make this day a memorable one for him. Malam Onilu is overwhelmed as he did not see it coming. He is curious like every other person who was not in the plan. That notwithstanding, the drums continue to speak louder. It is an event put together by the management and staff of the agency to acknowledge the impact the DG has made in the agency in the last 1 year.
Promotion 2024 was conducted, and result came out, and all the arrears for that year was paid.
Within this period, this leadership has identified the various demography in our country that we must take our messages to, and has crafted specific platforms, messaging platforms, that will address each of these demographics.
The campaign on the 7 core areas of responsibility of the state to citizens and the 7 areas of obligation expected of citizens to the state, codenamed 747, is on the front banner.
One is to popularize this idea of 747, for people to know this is what defines us as citizens, and for those who are in the leadership position also to know that's what defines us as Nigerians. And secondly, is to ensure that all the institutions of nurturing are established and made to work, so that we don't just end up with another document in our shelf.
Malam Lanre Issa Onilu acknowledges the cooperation and support of the management and staff of the agency in the achievements so far. He emphasizes the campaign by the National Orientation Agency on National Values Charter aimed at reawakening the consciousness in building the citizens in order to build the nation. Kenneth Nani, NTA News.
I'm a real Nigerian, 7 for 7. Now let's look at a foreign scene. Germany's Disease Control Center says a new infectious variant of the Mpox virus has been detected in Germany for the first time. Meanwhile, BRICS adopts 2024 summit declaration. Kolo Mohammed brings us details of these and other stories on the foreign scene.
The Disease Control Center in Germany said the person was infected abroad but did not give any further details, including where the case was being treated. The center only said the case is being closely monitored and adjusting its recommendations if necessary. So far, the vast majority of cases have been reported in Congo. Outbreaks of Mpox are currently affecting 18 out of 55 countries in Africa, and official reports say there have been 1,000 deaths as of last week. Mpox mostly spreads through close contact with infected people, including through sex. Global leaders during the 16th BRICS summit held in Kazan, Russia, held deliberations on various issues and came to a positive conclusion. At the conclusion of the summit, the leaders adopted the Kazan Declaration. The partner states affirmed their commitment to the BRICS spirit of mutual respect and understanding, sovereign equality, solidarity, and democracy, openness, inclusiveness, collaboration, and consensus. About 20 world leaders are gathering in the central city of Kazan, the largest democratic forum in Russia since Putin ordered troops into Ukraine in 2022. In other news, former President Barack Obama and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, were on stage Wednesday at a campaign rally for the 2024 election. Party officials say the moment former President Barack Obama started appearing at rallies, hopes became high and victory is even closer. Kolo Muhammad, NTA News.
I got Bade Adeleye with me now. Bade. Well, thanks, Bade. You have a broad smile. I think your team won their match tonight. All right, that's our package and News Extra. Many thanks for investing your time with us. Have a good night.